Right, so welcome everyone. This is session two of the BGI-25 Virtual Unconference. In this session, we're going to be hearing from some of the people who have been successfully funded in the last BGI Nexus funding round. We've got Busayo from Farmlingua, which is an agricultural based project which is creating an AI powered farm bot assistant that provides personalized real time farming guidance to rural and suburban farmers. And then we've also got Ubio from Think Inclusion, and that's a really cool project developing AI-powered tools to make digital conferencing, like this, funnily enough, accessible for people with visual, audio, and speech impairments. And last but not least, we've got Clement from BioNexus GAIA, which is an AI platform that features a dynamic case-by-case database of flora and fauna, empowering global researchers with ecological data. So I don't know if you have a sort of preferred running order, but who would like to go first? It is, yeah.
All right. So, hi everybody. Good afternoon, depending on which part of the world you're joining us from. My name is Clement, and I'm the project lead and lead researcher for the Bionic Sky project. So, in two simple statements, I would describe the Bionic Sky as a global alliance for biodiversity. I mean, of course, it's structured in that way, and also a movement for planetary stewardship. So I mean, these two things should stick in everybody's mind as we move forward in this speech section. Yeah, so of course, I would like to recognize my team, people who I've worked with closely and I'm still working with, young minds from different parts of Africa who contributed to the idea and are also currently contributing to the execution of the project as well. So, one of the problems which Bionic Sky seeks out to solve is, of course, by research, according to a couple of publications which we have looked through, we're losing species faster than we can document. And of course, we asked a question: if everybody in the world, could be a guardian of life, could contribute to species preservation, irrespective of their location or their knowledge level, and of course, the world is driving towards the AI age. So what if everyone could, get on this, you contribute to biodiversity conservation from whichever part of the world they are? Now, that's the question that came to the mind of the team when we we're coming up with this idea. Now, very importantly, we are structuring Bionexus Gaia in such a way that it has complete alignment with the global sustainable development goals, most especially life on land, life on water, climate action, and partnership in sustainability. Now, like I said earlier, according to a global assessment report on biodiversity and ecosystems, if you check the platform, Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services in 2024, it was clearly stated by a body of researchers that biodiversity loss is accelerating, of course. And then research into these areas are quite underfunded. Yeah, so like I said, the process of traditionally collecting data on biodiversity is slow because, of course, knowledge level around biodiversity is quite niche. And most times we have people who care, but they lack tools, they lack incentives and trusted platforms to be able to communicate and contribute meaningfully towards this cause. Now, of course, over the years, public interest and engagement in biodiversity has sourced, but the existing platforms often fall short, with challenges around data validation, reward mechanisms, and transparency. And this, of course, limits like large-scale participation. And this is the problem that the Gaia project seeks to solve. Now, our vision as a project and as a team is to become a citizen science-powered ecosystem that transform biodiversity into a global participatory movement, like I spoke earlier. And of course, we're looking at positioning our platform as a technological innovation for planetary stewardship. And of course, our mission, very simple, to connect people, data, and ideas in building the world's largest living biodiversity atlas, where everybody can make observation and every observation counts, every voice matters, and of course, every action on the platform is able to shape the planet's future. Now, why? Why now? Why is Bionetics GAIA important at this stage? Now, of course, we are at a stage where there is need to raise global awareness on climate change and biodiversity. Also, with the advent of smartphones, a lot of persons have smartphones now, and there's access to AI tools. So this is like the time to get people involved because we have more hands who are able to access tools to contribute to this cause. Now, policy shifts. I'll speak about something. Let me share this with you guys. Now, COP actually stands for Conference of Parties, which is organized by the United Nations to involve participation from countries and non-governmental bodies. Now, there are sub-considerations for COP, which includes COP for climate change and COP for biodiversity. Now, Bionetics GAIA sets priorities under these major frameworks of the COP of the United Nations, which is the climate framework and the biodiversity framework. Now, for the biodiversity framework, there are certain goals, of course, which the second goal is to ensure nature's contribution to people and maintain enhanced contributions to those who are able to involve themselves in environmental preservation. Now, Bionetics GAIA is committed to the first, the second, and the third goals of the Conference of Parties of the United Nations for Climate Change and Biodiversity. So this is more like positions for a global mandate. Now, what do we offer as a solution? We provide a citizen science platform where anyone from anywhere can log species, habitats, and ecological data.
Oh, she's back.
Apologies.
Yeah, go on, Clement.
All right. Yeah, so like I said, every user has a unique dashboard that streamlines their interaction with the platform. Now, how the platform works is you sign up and there's a GAIA ID that's generated by the platform, and you were able to interact with varying levels of anonymity. If you want a contribution to be toggled as private or public, that's dependent on you. So we are big on privacy and we are big on uniqueness of data and the contributors. Now, we have a GAIA Watch functionality that allows users to report biodiversity degradation action in real time. And these reports are immediately synced to governmental platforms or governmental bodies or preservation agencies who are tied or who are registered on our platform for them to be able to see and verify and act as soon as possible to stop that. That could be around deforestation, that could be around poaching, illegal transport of maybe like wildlife or materials and stuff like that. So we also have an AI segment for species recognition where people are able to upload pictures of maybe like a species in their environment. And if you want to learn about it, it's able to, the AI model is able to like, classify and bring out, a description of what that species is. And then, of course, we have a tokenized, a blockchain registry is linked to the NFT layer, which is able to reward people. I'm going to be talking about that in more details as we proceed. And then we have a community, global community, where we link NGOs, researchers, government, and citizen sciences. Yeah, like I said, the technology backbone revolves around the AI for species recognition, which I've just described. And then we have a blockchain registry that has, it's like a conglomerate of information that by the contributors on the platform gets the information. And of course, we are like open ecosystems that we need this kind of data and approach around things like, biodiversity or environmental conservation. Yeah, and we're exploring impact pathways around economic impact. Of course, we believe that with time, we're able to aggregate environmental sustainability data for companies to be able to use, especially those who are around carbon credit marketing and green revolution and many other stuffs. And for the social impact, we're looking at empowering citizens to, build eco-literacy and inspire actions that contribute to environmental preservation. Now, our progress so far, we've developed a conceptual framework paper, which will be out in a couple of weeks, which is around, we're looking at researching bioenergy GAIA, so which is like a conceptual framework around our AI, our blockchain, and then we're looking at the practicability of implementing the GAIA project as a tool that, utilizes the combined effect of AI and blockchain to enhance, regenerative biodiversity. And we're hoping to put this up in the coming weeks. And we also, because we are really heavy on research, we're also keen on exploring other research areas like impact of gamification and NFT-based incentives on student science engagements and biodiversity data contribution using our platform as case study. So we're not just building, we're moving from building a platform to exploring data from the platform to utilizing these data in real world impacts. Now we've also we've developed our project's ethical charter and our licensing. Everything is now made available on our Medium channel. I'll be dropping our links on the platform so you can check for our social communities as well. Now, for development, we're currently testing. So I've developed and tested our contributor dashboard. I just have the slides there. I wasn't able to record the demo, but of course, we'll post the demos when they are ready on our channels. So when you log into the platform, you're able to choose your role as a contributor, as a researcher, as an expert. So we're almost wrapping up the contributor dashboard to be left with researcher and experts, validators dashboard as well. Now you were able to choose your role as contributor, and then after that, you select your location, your country, your city, and then, of course, I did set this to Abuja, Nigeria, because this is like my nearest location. And you can select your affiliation if you're part of a group or an NGO, you're a student, you're a researcher. These things help the platform modify how you interact with it. Now you can also select how you intend to contribute, either through species observation, habitat restoration, climate advocacy, whichever way you want to contribute to the platform. So back to submissions. Yeah, so once you log in, it's believed that at this point you must have registered or gotten your species sighting on your phone as maybe like an audio file or as a JPEG file or as a PDF file. And then, yeah, of course, you click here to select the file on your device. And we have limitations here for file size. Then you can check here to readjust your submission. And then we also have a panel where it shows you the success of your uploads, if they are all, correct. So the ones that have been rejected due to maybe the file format is wrong or the file size is, extra large, you can readjust it here. Now, proceed to the panel where you are able to upload the spreadsheet information, based on the knowledge level that you've got. And then once you are done, you're able to select the common name for the spreadsheet, scientific name if you know it, and the number of observations. If you counted one of the spreadsheets at the time of observation, or you counted two, you're able to input those numbers here. Now, you also input location and dates, and you can add other field notes to each of the extra observation you've made. And then, yes, you can preview your submission. So this person, this test submission was like a giraffe. Someone like spotted a giraffe, So we just use this as a test submission. And your submission now goes live, where everybody else on the platform can see what you've done, and also make contribution and make comments. Now, we want to sustain people's engagement on the platform, and that is why we've included something around appreciation and sharing. So just like if you use your Facebook, we have like the like button where people can like posts that they're interested in. So we've included some in-platform, engagement tabs like the appreciate and share, where you can go like people's posts and stuff like that, just to build community engagement and get people enthusiastic about their submission. If I make a submission and I come online and I'm seeing 20 appreciations, it has a way of encouraging my activities on the platform. It means that people are seeing what I'm doing and they like what I do. Yes, and then you can view your submissions here, the number of submissions you've made, the ones that have been verified by the experts, the ones pending review, the ones that did not get uploaded due to my screen is quite blurry. I think my network is slow getting this. All right, so that's that for the submissions. And yes, you can get to export here and then share it directly with your existing. So yes, and another part of development is our AI model, which is still currently undergoing training across specific data centers. So we are hoping that the input from the citizen scientists will also be used for our model pipeline training as well. Now, we are also working on a data registry where people can get access to lots and lots of precise information. And we're also looking at integrating the GAIA NFTs to reward contributors, more like a badge of honor for people who get to, actively contribute on our platform as well. Now, post BGI funding, we want to build a sustainable ecosystem that thrives on impact. So we're going to explore options around onboarding more students, indigenous groups, researchers, and experts on our platform. And then, of course, develop and test our NFT distribution system. This is actually, we've developed this to a level where it can be hosted, but we're waiting for other screens to be done so we can integrate it to under the rewards section of the dashboards. And then we're also looking at exploring things like GAIA Arts Expo, where we can, engage a non-technical audience, also introduce the Bionexus GAIA Students Hub as well, to ensure that people at a younger level are get onboarded into the movements for environmental and biodiversity conservation. Yes, so we're hoping that researchers contribute their data sets to our platform when it's ready. Organizations partner with us, in student engagements, and investors who are interested in biodiversity, environmental, climate change can, fund our infrastructure to scale. Because currently we are only able to handle a certain amount of users, and we're hoping that in the future, policymakers will recognize GAIA as a model for citizen science and AI synergy. Yeah, thank you very much. That's the much that I can share now. So I'll keep the community updated on Matemo's channel as we progress. If we've got people who, or when our platforms are ready, would reach out to persons to help us with testing and stuff like that. So that from the GAIA. Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks very much, Clement. Great presentation and a really interesting project. Before we go to the next presentation, I'd like to, because I know you've got to hop off, I'd like to ask people if anyone's got a question for Clement.
Ivani?
Hi.
Yes, yes. So did you get me?
Yes, I did. Yeah. I mean, I was just wondering, is there like any kind of verification? Or, like if somebody says, yeah, I'm an expert, is there any way?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so the dashboard I shared was just for the contributor. So for the research, for the expert, there's a lot more documentation that has to be made. If you're saying you're an expert level, there has to be lots of documentations in place, which our team is still developing. So this was just a regular contributor dashboard. So even as a researcher, there are other documentation that you have to provide for us too, if you're signing up to the platform. So we are able to validate your skill level in back end.
Brilliant. Any other questions for Clement? All right. Well, thanks ever so much for being here. And it's really interesting to hear about this project. And I think we should be able to kind of edit the presentation a little bit tighter with the drop-offs. But yeah, um, I guess now we could move to the next presentation. And it's a question of whether Ubio or Busayo would like to step up.
Yeah, I guess I'm here. So let me
Cool.
take.
Go for it.
So, this project is titled Think Inclusion, and it's actually a conferencing app for people with different that levels of accessibility. And this is actually a project that we're starting because assuming we are all on this call, one question always comes to my mind. What about people who don't have accessibility? How do they engage? How do they feel included? Technology naturally excludes people who are excluded, and actually, there's absolutely nothing we can do. 90% of the world, when they are building technologies, does not think about the 5% of us, the 2% of us, the 1%, because obviously that's a smaller market, right? Compared to building for everybody. So let's say we are all on a Zoom call today. We are able to include ourselves irrespective of our locations and our geographies. And that's an amazing thing, right? But obviously, there are a lot of people that can't join these kind of conversations. So think inclusion conferencing app comes in. Yeah, welcome. So it's conferencing app for people with thinking difficulties. Awesome. So this is just a little bit of a demo of what we are working on. We like to say that this is actually the future of what conferencing apps will be like. We're going to be able to have conversations, and we're going to be having avatars that are going to be interpreting for people who absolutely have these accessibility issues. And we are also trying to figure up our head how we're going to be able to do it with people who also do have other forms of accessibility issues as well. So this is just what I'm talking about here. About 466 million people in the world actually have hearing disabilities or hearing issues. Now, for 7 billion of the world, this is a significant number. Unfortunately, not such a significant number as to drag the focus of the global talents or the global minds, the big techs, to be able to build inclusive technology for this set of people, right? So when we go, for example, physical spaces, what do? We provide ramps, we provide interpreters, we provide adaptive structures for people with accessibility difficulties, right? So if you've ever get into any public space, you realize that it's actually mandated, right? But we've not been able to create such a mandate for digital infrastructures as well, right? So digital public spaces do not have this same level of accessibility, right? We don't really think it's actually necessary. speech and hearing impairment communities excluded from online meetings, right? This is the absolute truth. So this is one of the things that Think Inclusion is trying to address. For now, we're starting with the whole speech and hearing difficulty. We are currently working on two projects, the speech and hearing difficulty and the minority language project, right? These are two projects we're trying to bring into the conferencing app. The next one for us is the issue of going deeper with even people that have visibility impairment and other some sort of impairment. But think of this meeting app as a meeting app that is thinking about inclusion in all forms of inclusion, right? Whether it's language barrier, whether it's actually speaking and hearing barrier, which is actually where this particular project is focused on. We actually, what we're doing is we're actually building this in parallel with another funded project that is about minority languages. So the idea is actually to bring these two, and then we'll be advancing it to other forms of exclusions that actually does exist in our society today. So this is what Think Inclusion is all about. Like I said, I've shown us that demo, right? So you can see the speaker is speaking in speech, and then we are having an avatar. So we're going to be having an avatar at the edge of the corner of the conferencing app, actually demonstrating so that in case you can't listen or you can't hear, you can actually see what the avatar is actually demoing, right? And you are able to pick and understand what the conversation is actually all about. Then the next one, so that's just the literal listening, and then this is actually, it has its own reverse technology, which I'll be explaining in the tech stack as well. The reverse technology is that, so I would have done the demo of that as well, but I don't know how to sign, right? So if I'm signing, you would be able to hear in English as well, right? Or in whatever language, which we are also trying to see how we can incorporate all of that whole element into it. So we have someone who has speech impairment. The person joins a conversation like this, and the person is able to speak, right? And then what we are hearing is English, right? So right now, the pursuit is to actually have an avatar that will be speaking in English on behalf of that person. But for now, we're going to be doing the speech to audio first, because the avatar is a lot more complex technology, right? And syncing it in real time needs a lot more funds and all of this kind of stuff. So even with what we're doing, we're still trying to see how we can get around. But for the stage, the technology, the way we are trying to approach is that so there are two technologies, right? We have the speech to text to sign, and then we have the sign to text to speech. So from the speech to text to sign, we want to use an avatar because that's the only way, and it's a lot more heavier on the compute on the app. So we're trying to resolve that on that. But on the flip side, for the speech, for the sign to speech, right? We want, that's the sign to text to speech, because that's actually the technology. The technology that actually does exist does not have this sequence. What we have, sorry, I think I'm already moving faster. Okay, so what we have in most of this is actually sign to text or text to sign. So what we did was actually add the whole sign to it. So we don't have STS models, it's only STTS or TTS, right? That's text to speech or speech to text. Those are the ones. So we are now the one adding the extra layer, which is a sign language. And for us to do that, it's we need to be able to connect it to the speech synthesis that is actually being produced, right? So this is just a little bit of the technology from how it works, speech to text to sign language, right? So it converts the spoken word into text. Then it translates it into visual sign language translations, right? So what you saw there in the demo that we did at the first page is actually you speaking, and then it converts the spoken word to text, and then it synthesizes the text. It converts the text conversion into sign language, and then obviously putting an avatar to that to be able to create the whole this thing. So this is the simple algorithm that we've created, and then the sign language is the output as you saw in the demo. The other one is a sign language. That's to say the user here is the one signing and he's trying to communicate to people at the other end. So the person does the signing, right? So obviously, the computer recognizes the gesture, right? Based on the computer vision recognition, translated into text, and the text is what translates to speech. So in this technology, you observe that the text is most times always in the middle, right? So the optimal solution would have been that when it creates a speech, you put an avatar to represent the person. So you have an avatar of you, right, in the real world while you are listening. So people are able to at least communicate with that avatar. But again, the technicalities around that is a lot more expensive. Not that it cannot be done, but a lot more expensive in terms of compute and all of that for us. So that's why we are trying to just end it here, but definitely still solve the problem and it still gives us the output that we are looking for. So here is the team. I am the team lead. I have my AI engineering skills. I've had publications in IEEE, American Institute of Physics, and we have Edian as well, who is a full stack developer. We have Daniel, who is our project lead and also in charge of the ethics of all of this solution, right? So BGI Nexus enables anyone. So this is the whole stuff around the whole BGI and why we decided to apply to BGI. We feel that BGI is the right space for this kind of conversations because we're talking about the ability to use AI for something beneficial and to think about all of us and not just one of us, right? So we realize that BGI is where this conversation is best had. So what's the technology stack? If you've actually listened to my conversation so far, you'll see that we have natural language processing, where the speech recognition and text generation actually is happening, right? We have the computer vision for recognizing the gestures and then doing the whole real-time language sign gesture detection. So, and then so it detects it and puts it in text now to audio that's using TTS, right? Text to speech. So technology, and then that's it. So we have the whole bidirectional modality conversion of the language translation. And then obviously we used an inclusion first experience, ensuring that while we are building, we are thinking of who's going to use this and how do they naturally interact. That's one of the things that we did. So far, we're done with milestone 1. We're able to do the whole prototyping, the initial prototyping. Currently, we are in milestone 2, which is where why you can see the model already being developed, the text to speech, the speech to sign language that we're currently developing, right? And then after that, we are going to be once we're done with those two, we are going to be integrating it into the meeting conference app. So the build currently is in concurrently, right? So it's an integrated build approach. We are not doing 2 and waiting for 3, right? You have to be building the conferencing app together while we are actually building this as well. So it's a lot of work at this level, but I think milestone 2 and 3 is where the whole stuff really lies. Once we're done with this, we are moving to milestone 4, doing the whole documentation, getting some community support and every other thing that we need in order to get this done. Yeah, so we have 466 million people who actually have speech impairment, can't join this kind of conversation, even when they have something to contribute. So how can we support these people? So you can join us, and that is what this movement is all about. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ubio. What a brilliant presentation. Has anybody got any questions or comments on what they've heard?
Hello, everyone.
Hi,
Hi.
Hi,
hi, PG.
yeah.
Yeah, I am really, really intrigued by the project because I'm big on equity, that's providing solutions that would ensure quality. And this is really, really quite impressive. So I think I have one question coming from the African perspective. Um, I was thinking, I think before I joined the meeting, how do we provide accessibility for Africans that particularly have this issue with even accessing digital technologies? So this project is offering inclusion for people who already have existing exclusion to this kind of conversations. So is there a way to, how do we now do it for people already having another form of inclusion, like there is probably digital technologies, but there is no stable internet or no access to the internet? How do we bridge this? I know I understand that maybe this isn't the scope of this particular project, but I'm just asking, as someone who is an African, how do you also bridge these gaps for people that will have an exclusion in your inclusion project? I don't know if you
Yeah,
get.
yeah, I get the context. I think the conversation around inclusion would never end. And to the extent that one of us is excluded, we must always do all that is within our limits to ensure that everybody feels included. Everybody is included and everybody feels included. So just to speak to that, I think so the first level of this conversation is included people who could have been included, but for sake of their disability are actually excluded. Then the second level of this is actually the conversation around people who don't even have any way to be included. And this always happens in two forms. One is actually the lack of digital technologies, like you actually acknowledged. And then the second one, most times, is always the lack of understanding of language, right? So we've in the issue of language, we've already leveled up, right? We're trying to solve that problem of language, right? The by obviously trying to see how that language can be included. But the third level is where you're bringing the conversation. There are people who don't even have access to internet or low bandwidth and all of that. And then I think one of such is where this technology, this kind of solutions would need a lot of support. And thanks to BGI for the support already, but this is where we would need global support and maybe people all over the world with similar mindset and people who believe in the mission of inclusion as well, right? Because to get this, there are currently new technologies and around this conversation. One is such technologies that allow us to be able to connect with very low bandwidth, right? So to the extent that there is any bandwidth as such, people can still connect. There are new technologies coming up that allows people to be able to store bandwidth as and when it was available, especially for people who are in critical spaces or places of
Oh,
war and all
wow.
of that. Yeah, so these people
Oh,
don't
yeah.
always have access to internet, but maybe once in a while there's a glimpse of internet or something that passes. There are new technologies allowing people to store those kind of bandwidth till when they need to have conversations or when they need to. There are also technologies that people are trying to innovate. I've gotten some research papers that allow people to be able to partake or to use. So maybe like think about it. You are able to record your message before the time, and then when it's time, you join as if it was live and all of those kind of stuff. There are a lot of conversations going around how we make people much more included, but they are technology heavy. They are resource draining, and this is where so there are three levels to the conversation. We think for now with our limited resource we can try one and two, but the third is where the problem really lies even higher, and hopefully by our modeling of one and two we can get partners that will be willing to have the third conversation as well.
Yeah, yeah, quite impressive. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, any other questions?
I wanted to say, Ubio, thank you so much for doing this project because I'm disabled as well, and my partner is blind. And I've actually been working on a Roku app to help with the audio description project movie database. But I'm really, really glad that you're doing this because it is so very important. And I also think that disabled people and accessibility and assistive technology can actually be a forefront in transhumanism. So it's a real exciting thing that you're doing. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you.
Yes, it's very true. Is there any other questions or comments or anything that anyone would like to raise? All right, well, in that case, I think we should move to Farmlingua and Busayo's presentation, if that's all right.
Sorry, for some weird reason, I need
Actually,
to.
Busayo, before you start sharing your screen, we've got a bit of a problem with another room who hasn't got
Oh, okay.
anybody who can record. So I have to, if I pop into the main room just for a second and give the right co-host permissions, it's just that the recording will follow me. So,
I
um,
can report, Benny.
if you just, well, you haven't got co-host, you can't, let me just, it'll take me 2 minutes. All right, thanks everybody. Thank you for your patience. And over to Farmlingua and Busayo.
Okay. I believe everyone can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, yes. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Super interesting project so far. Pretty good. Very well. Well done to everyone. Um, in some sense, I kind of wish I put in a lot more effort into my slides, but I'll pay the price here. I'll just try and explain much more because I think I have very short slides. For some reason, I had the wrong impression that it was going to be a very short presentation. But okay, so I'll go ahead. Farmlingua, we're building a solution that empowers rural and local farmers using AI across Africa. We're starting with Nigeria since that's where most of the team and our most of the team resources, expertise, and likes. That's where it is. That's where we are. That's where we currently reside. But rest assured, we're building for Africa and beyond. But we're starting with a region we're pretty familiar with and all. So the problem we're trying to solve is a serious information gap problem where as much as for all of the advancements in the world, for all of the massive progress going on in different sectors, particularly in agriculture and farming, we see little of those progress transcend to rural areas and yeah, rural areas, small regions in Nigeria, in Africa at large. So we say this because we have seen firsthand. Yes, I somewhat have been around a farm. Yeah, even though it was more of a farm for a family and could not a large scale farm. And for my founder, my founder owns a farm. Is more of an agriculturist than any other thing. One of the things that we see from interactions with farmers, local farmers, we see that many of the problems they face, many of the problems that cost them resources, that cost them their produce, that cost them their efforts, have been solved. The real problem they have is ready access to these solutions and information that they need to solve the existing problems that they have. In fact, I dare say a lot of the problems that many of these local farmers face is access to information. They could be doing a lot better for themselves, for their families, and for the community at large if they had this information readily available, information to the perceived problems that they had, because many of them had been solved quite some time ago and but those advancements, those solutions in some very well, because I think so let me share a bit of an experience. without going too far, so I don't like, because I tend to be a storyteller at times. I think one of the very little experience that I've had is I've been in a situation where by interacting with people in some of these problems, the problems they face that they become accustomed to as, oh, this is a normal problem, and they feel pretty relentless, not relentless, they feel pretty they are at peace with it as, okay, this is a challenge that they have no solution for, and there's like little or no solution for it, or the solutions are only applicable or available to large scale farms that have billions of investments in them, whereas some of those problems in this particular instance were things that there was a pretty well adopted solution. All the farmer needed to know was, oh, this is how you do it. And one of the things that denies such individuals access to information is the language barrier. I, for myself, I primarily work in speech. As you find out, I'm more of like a machine learning scientist and a researcher. And so I do a lot with speech, and one of the reasons why I work with speech is I've come to see the significant gap that exists with language barriers in communication because of language barriers. So I've had the opportunity to travel from place to place, and so from my experience, from my growing up, I had the opportunity to go to very good schools. I was taught Queen's English, even though I don't sound like one that's speaking Queen's English. But yeah, I was taught very good English, could speak English. I was always very confident as to how well I can speak and all, until I had the opportunity to begin to go to places outside of Africa, or places in Africa, really, top places in Africa where English was not a primary language, where they primarily spoke Arabic, where they primarily spoke French and the like. And I saw that for all the beautiful, well-crafted sentences I could come up with, I couldn't pass my message across. I couldn't properly communicate. Many a times I've been stranded and I've had to use Google Translate, where you type into Google Translate, it translates, then you give the other person to read or something, and it is translating it in something completely different. Many instances like that. I know. So back to the problem at hand. The access to information really is one of the things that powers, or that is the reason for the lack of access to information, is because many of these local farmers are not very educated in colloquial English and so, or or they are not vast. They rather speak. They are people that the language to which they know, which is in their rights, which they know to speak, is their local language, their mother tongue, to which they've been raised with, which does not elude them of all their brilliance in the ability to produce very good, produce good with their cultural skills and all. So to that in mind, we set out to solve this very obvious problem, right? A very obvious problem, because it is both for everybody on it. I can speak for myself. I can speak for my founder. We all have a touch point. We all have why this problem and this problem and this product that we're building it means it's very dear to us, because we have all had first-hand experience as to first-hand experience of the challenges that exist in the different because of these problems and all. So like I said, millions of rural farmers. When I say millions, I myself don't have the exact figures, but that which I know in my local region, by my local region, my geopolitical zone, and my experience from traveling around the old geopolitical zone. And I don't know if you know. Okay, I don't think I had it. Okay, yeah, I mentioned that we're currently based in Nigeria now. Nigeria is very big on agriculture, even though it's not like our primary form of export. It's not what Nigeria is properly known for. We're known more for our crude oil and all. But agriculture is a very big deal, and in this day and age, there's a lot of farmers that are farm to feed where they plant what they eat basically. And some supply their communities, and he has different farmers having different skills, I know, and many of their efforts so far, pest attacks, soil issues, poor, yeah, you could call poor post-harvest pipelines and the likes. Yeah, and these are the painful part is these are problems that there are readily available solutions to it. All they needed was somebody to connect them on the solution. So that's why we set out to build Farmlingua. So Farmlingua basically is a platform that empowers rural and local farmers with the information they need to significantly improve their harvest, their yield, solve their problems in their local language. Yes, the language to which they understand and they can speak in. Yes, how Farmlingua works is currently at this current stage of Farmlingua, because the vision of Farmlingua is much more bigger than what it currently is, or what we're doing under the scope of this grant. Yeah. But for this scope, what we're currently doing is an AI-powered multilingual assistant that offers rural farmers in any region access to information, to which agricultural information to which they need to improve the quality of their farming experience and their lives. So be it no access to the internet, be it poor connectivity issues, all of those scopes were things that we considered while building Farmlingua, or for this scope of the project, where there's a speech for people that can't type, yeah, that can only speak what they know, what they understand. There's a speech modality to which the app is being built to allow for speech in their local language, and for people that can type and explain their need and their problem. There's the modality to receive text input and those can happen via the internet. For people that don't have access to the internet, we're building to allow them use USSD codes to make requests and receive solutions or advice to their problems and whatever circumstances they face in their local language. Farmlingua is basically built to be able to dictate any local language, either it's speech input or text input. We're building with language detection, different parts. So I really like this was the part I wish I added more context with. Worry not. Maybe we have a demo, because we should have a full, at least a demo that we can make a very good video about. That will be added to the slide as soon as we can do that. Sorry that it's just filled with text and pictures here and there. So a bit of an intro, a bit of a peek into how the underlying architecture looks like. From the farmer or whoever the user would have an interface. That's whoever is connecting via the internet would have an interface, maybe on because we're building both a mobile app and a web app. Would have an interface to which an interface similar to your Gemini and ChatGPT and co, where there's a text box where they can put in their request. There's also an option to speak into a microphone. So depending on whatever request they make, that in their local language. Currently, in addition, we currently support Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo, and Pidgin, and also English, but we're definitely going beyond these languages. This is all for the scope of validating our product, validating what we're building, and all. So yes, for any form of input, either speech or text, our system is able to identify what language it is, and that is passed into a large language model that has been fine-tuned for agriculture. That has been fine-tuned on quite a lot of data. We started with a pre-trained model. Okay, we start with a pre-trained model and with extensions to include much more recent agricultural data from different. We have quite a large knowledge bank for which we're building these models with. So that's that. Then the models also will have access to the internet. By internet, I mean the model can always update its knowledge base on what it currently knows on a particular subject matter. Yes, and with this, we provide a response to in real time. We provide a response to whoever is making the request. That's the user, in whatever modality they prefer. Either it will come in as text in their local language and also as speech, as audio, or speech which they can play and listen depending on what best suits them, what's the best medium to pass across the information that they need and all. We're building this to understand the scope to be robust and also be generalizable where it can understand the scope of whatever is being asked, because while we're building, we're also considering that some of our users, because we consider that some of our users might also not be able to clearly explain in good details whatever problem they are facing. Those are some of the things that we factor in while building. That's the essence of the robustness of the model to whatever form the question comes in. I know at the point where there's need for clarity from the model on, oh, do you mean this, even giving relatable examples, right? Just to guide the user to properly describe whatever problem or challenge they are facing. So a very good and solid response can be delivered. Yes, then one other thing that Farmlingua is able to do is not just help them in how they farm and how they process their harvests and all. Farmlingua is also being built to help them with information around markets, around grants. Basically, maybe because of I believe because of some of the experience that we have as people who have practiced agriculture and my background, for a bit of additional information about my background, and which helps me a bit in agriculture, is I went to a specialized university that was primarily an agricultural university, so I got exposed to a lot in that regard. Like I said, one of the things, so beyond just helping solve the problems, the common problems to which they will face during their farm practice, we also know the problems of helping farmers scale is also an issue. Like help them scale, help them, for people who are willing, help them go beyond the current practice to which they do, which they can't scale to generate more income for themselves. Yes, basically we're building Farmlingua to help with crop problems, pest issues, markets to which they can sell, connecting them with the right markets, and even market advice on what is trendy and how best they can make profit on what product or what crop they are more invested in and all. And also connecting them with grants, because in my region there are quite a lot of grants, but there's bad, not bad, I would say poor publicity, like poor information widespread. There's little only information widespread on the available opportunities to many of these local and rural farmers, which is understandable because many of the things that plague local and rural regions are either poor access to the internet or no access to the internet at all. The language barrier, because many of this information are said in English or dispersed in English, and many of people that can't that don't understand that particular language. All of this is what we consider while building Farmlingua. And one last thing that we're doing, like I said earlier, is connecting farmers to off-takers, storage centers, NGOs. All of this is basically beyond solving the problem that they know they have also exposing them to opportunities that lie around what they are doing, because it pays to do agriculture. Agriculture is a very important sector for any economy and any country. It's basically what we eat, and also it's one that is there to is there. It's a sector that I believe should be highly rewarded, and that those are my personal beliefs because of the significance or the magnitude of, or basically the impact of what is being done, how it is important to human life and the likes. Yes, that's a bit of our solution and all. So far what we've done is we've reached milestone 4 through the support from deep funding, and all basically what we've done so far is we now have a speech to text model, a speech to text model. By that, basically, don't worry, I would ensure that we had at least a video demo to the slide much later, so you can see what has been done. I have a speech to text model that takes speech input in English, Yoruba, Hausa, and Pidgin. Last I checked, there were some issues with the Igbo model, and that should be solved very soon. But we have a text-to-speech model, we have a translation model, which basically translates English from that translates text from X language to Y language. By X language basically means, an example is translate from text given in Yoruba to English, or text given in. So let me just give you a typical example of how that comes in handy. An instance where our model or our system is updating its knowledge base on what is currently available on the internet. And on more occasions, what you find on the internet is text in English, right? Obviously, there are many more highly resourced languages, but these regions, the languages they speak in these regions are largely low resource languages. Whatever language which the text is gotten from on the internet, we have a text translation model to translate it to the desired or to the preferred language of the user, right? And so the speech to text model is basically there to transcribe what is being said. So that's an instance where our user is using the speech feature, the speech modality, where you just turn on your microphone and speak and make your request. We have a speech to text model that transcribes that. If there's a need for translation, if the speech was in say any of the local languages, we translate it to English because our language model was primarily built on English. And we're still working on a point where we can make these large language models multilingual. That's a journey that we know we have to embark on, because that leads to the interesting research on reasoning. I'll try not to get I'll try not to get too technical, because there's an interesting which I have a keen eye for on how LLMs reason, how multilingual LLMs reason, and how human beings basically how human beings reason when, for people that are bilingual, where we speak multiple languages. When you reason, in what language do you reason and stuff like that. Those are very interesting problems that we will solve as we keep building. But now the core features to serve these farmers are what we are currently focused on. So like I said, I was giving an update on our milestones. Yes, we have a multilingual speech to text system. We have a text translation model up and running. Now at milestone 4, what we're currently building is the user interface. So and which we believe will be done very soon, to which we will deploy and have a large number of people access what we're currently building, test, give us very good feedback. so we can use that to improve the system before we fully launch and all. Beyond building technology, we're also working on partnerships with institutions that are primarily focused on agriculture. Like I said, I went to a specialized university that was primarily an agriculture university. We have many of that in Nigeria, or quite a few of that in Nigeria. We were working on, because they have quite a lot of resource. They have so much intangible and valuable knowledge, so which would help us build the kind of system that we hope to build and all. And one of the other things that we're currently working on, and also we're really having some impact, is also awareness against the bias that, or the misinformation that only a section of people can do agriculture. We're breaking such barriers. We're building to make it possible for anybody to do agriculture, anybody to, at whatever scale they desire to do it. Because what we're building with Farmlingua, it becomes very possible for anybody with a desire to do agriculture, any form of agriculture, to do it at whatever scale they desire, without be having to go through formal knowledge, or be of some form of gender, or many disparities that currently exist and all. Yes, that's a bit of a milestone. Yes, the vision ahead, like I said, we are currently in conversations with institutions and the likes. We hope to do much more than that. We hope to build data centers around agriculture, agric knowledge. Also create a publishing hub for Farmlingua, where we make those resources readily available for people to consume on their preferred medium of consumption. By medium of consumption, I basically mean where these people's interact. So people that use newspapers, the goal is to have many of all this knowledge being shared in newspapers. People that use social media, or whatever form of social media and the likes. We also intend to increase, because one thing to make the kind of impact that we have in our hearts to make, we need to embark on some partnerships with NGOs, large NGOs, with government institutions, because we know this is not a problem that we can solve on our own. While we might be pioneering many of the things that we're doing, we don't intend to carry this burden on our own. We tend to include institutions that are willing to partner with us to solve the problems that plague rural farmers and all. And the goal is to increase adoption, is to bring about inclusion for many of these communities. Yeah, a bit about the team. Mr. Temple is unfortunately available as our founder and CEO. We have a co-founder and head of technology also unavailable. We have an agriculturist who is an expert, agronomist, and also our farm consultant. She basically leads the team in everything agric, yeah, but not limited to her. And you have myself, who I'm more of an ML scientist and an engineer. Yes, and one thing is we know what we're building is beyond us. What we're building is for a global impact. While we starting in Nigeria, we're not limited to the shores of Nigeria. Again, across Africa, because I have traveled a few, and I know that this is not a problem that plagues only my country. It plagues many countries in Africa and also beyond Africa. I'm pretty sure that is many of the things that we face here are not exclusive to us. Many low resource communities also suffer many of these problems. We're not limited at Farmlingua. The goal is to go far, reach as many people as we can reach, and make the most impact that we can while we do. So we call for collaborations of all forms. However you feel you can help, either you're a technologist, you're a policymaker, you're an agriculturist in whatever form, or you are a language expert, in whatever form to which you can to which you feel anyone can contribute. Our hands are open. We also encourage, we're also looking out for collaborations in terms of funding and all, because this is an expensive project. It's a very expensive one, and one to which the team is fully committed to, and also looking forward to as much injection of funds that can be used to improve the quality of lives for many people. Yeah, thank you. That's all from my end. I hope I was audible and my network has not kicked me out or something. Can anyone hear?
Yeah, we can still hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Busayo, for your presentation. And yeah, has anybody got any questions or comments or thoughts that they'd like to add? Okay, well, with the last few minutes of the session, I would just like to alert people to the current BGI funding round, which is an ideation challenge aiming towards RFPs. So I'm just posting in the chat in a second how you apply and the guidelines that will help you kind of understand what the process is. And I can just screen share really briefly and show people what that looks like. Okay, so the whole thing with BGI Nexus is that they are focused on AI ethics and safety and governance and so on. So if you sign up on the Deep Funding site and go to RFP ideation, you will see the open challenge and you go here to submit a new idea. And this is what you'll see when you do. Let me just... Oh, that's not what you'll see when you do. What you should see is a little form. Oh, right, it's logged me out. That's annoying. But anyway, what you do get is a little form which will ask you which thread in the challenge you want to look at. One of them is governance of AI, another is ethics and safety, and the other is kind of social impact. So you can submit your idea. It's only a short form, it's only a short process, and 500 words to outline your idea and another 500 to go into it in a bit more detail is enough. And then, yeah, if we just have a quick glance at the guidelines, which is a link that I just dropped in the chat for people, you will see a little bit more about how it works and what it's about. Basically, at the moment, they're looking for ideas which could become RFPs. RFP stands for Request for Proposals. So they're looking, for things that could become something that other people could submit ideas to. So you need to identify a clear problem, outline your approach and the technology that might solve it, and show how it contributes to beneficial and ethical AI development. So all of the projects that we've heard from today did something very similar to that and came up with ideas that contributed to beneficial and ethical AI and uses of AI that are socially impactful. But now they're looking for stuff that is going to lead to RFPs that other people can propose in. So, highly specific or clearly implementable ideas are more likely to stand out. Broad concepts can also succeed if they include a strong plan for execution. So, bear that in mind. So, you submit your idea, ideas are filtered and assessed. And then we move to RFP development. Once an idea has been awarded, then you write an RFP from it for others to propose to. So yeah, if anybody's got any questions about that process, I'll try and answer them. Okay, cool. I mean, I don't know, Busayo, while you're still here, we could ask, have you got any advice for people applying to a BGI Nexus funding round? What would you advise?
Uh, I think my advice would be not just submitting not just submitting a project in code like but this is very subjective, but my advice will be so many projects that you truly believe in, that you're willing to commit to you're willing to commit to 100%. And also you have to be able to articulate the problem and also how you intend to solve it, because that's the only way you can get people to buy into it. If you can properly articulate, oh, how this is a problem and how your solution is going to work. Yeah, that gets at least from my experience, that gets people to buy into what you're doing. I don't know if that's any helpful.
Yeah, that is really helpful. And I think you're very accurate there about submit an idea you believe in. Otherwise, you're not really going to get anywhere. I think looking at the applications last time, it did stand out when people were doing something that they knew about and cared about. So, yeah. Right. Well, we could wrap up a little bit before the end of the session, unless anybody has got any other comments or questions or anything that they would like to raise. Hi, Benjamin.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, have you got a question?
Actually, I'm boarding my plane. I only have a few minutes, but I was curious about the subject. I may jump in if
All right.
if it's something of interest. Thank you very much.
All right. I just kind of heard you saying something, that was all. I mean, we're pretty much coming to the end of the session now. What I could do is repost the presentations that people gave. People have posted their slides in the chat. So this was one, and let me just find the others. But yeah, we'll be wrapping up this session
Thank
any
you for sharing.
second.
Thank you for sharing the content, Vanessa. I'll take a look into it.
All right, cool. Let me just find the last one. Here we go. All right. There we are. Okay, so the next session, which kicks off at 1400 UTC, is all about governance tooling for grassroots communities that uses AI and the ethics and safety pitfalls thereof. And we'll be hearing from 4 different work groups in the Singularity Net Ambassador Programme. But in the meantime, I suggest we all hop back into the main room or hop off and come back. And I just want to, I know we've only got Busayo left here, but I want to thank the presenters for giving us an insight into their really powerful and interesting projects. Thank you. All right, I'm going to move back to the main room. Thanks everybody for being.
Yeah, we too should have stopped earlier, but it's all right. I think we're done now because everyone is back here.
Yep, we're back. I'm actually going to stop the recording for that one.